On the evening of November 5th, 1975, 7 men were driving home through the dense forest near Snowflake, Arizona, after a long day of logging. Among them was 22-year-old Travis Walton. The sun had set, and the forest was wrapped in complete darkness, except for the narrow beams of their truck's headlights cutting through the trees. As they moved along the rough dirt road, the men suddenly noticed a strange, bright light ahead glowing through the trees. At first, they assumed it was a fire or maybe the reflection of something metallic, but as they drew closer, it became clear that this light was unlike anything they had seen before. When the truck reached a small clearing, they saw it, a large, disc-shaped object hovering silently above the ground. The craft was metallic, with a smooth surface, and it emitted a bluish-white glow that illuminated the trees below it. There was no sound of engines or machinery, only a faint humming in the air. The truck came to an abrupt stop. For several seconds, no one spoke. The men simply stared in disbelief, their minds trying to process what they were seeing. Travis Walton, driven by curiosity, stepped out of the truck despite the warnings from his co-workers. The others shouted for him to get back in, but he kept walking toward the object. When Travis was almost directly beneath the craft, a bright blue beam of light suddenly shot down from it. The men in the truck reported that the beam struck Travis and lifted him off the ground momentarily before throwing him backwards several feet. He hit the ground hard and lay still. The men panicked. Believing Travis had been killed, they sped off in fear. After driving several hundred yards, guilt and confusion overwhelmed them, and they decided to turn back. But when they returned to the place, the light and Travis were both gone. All that remained was the faint smell of something burnt in the air. Terrified, they drove straight to the nearest town and reported what had happened. The local sheriff, skeptical but alarmed, organized a massive search party, calling in deputies from neighboring towns and coordinating with local volunteers. For the next 5 days, hundreds of people combed the forest with dogs trained to track humans, helicopters scanning from above, and groups of volunteers covering the dense underbrush, trying to find any trace of Travis. Search teams carefully measured and marked the area where the loggers said the incident had happened, looking for any unusual marks on the ground. But there was nothing. Many began to suspect that the story was a lie, that the men had murdered their co-worker and invented a wild tale about aliens to cover it up. Local news reporters amplified these doubts, interviewing neighbors and experts, while police interrogated the men repeatedly, asking for every detail about their route, the timing, and Travis's behavior before he vanished. But every one of them stuck to the exact same story, word for word, including descriptions of the light, the craft, and the moment Travis was struck. They even took lie detector test and passed, with the examiners noting their physiological responses matched genuine stress and fear rather than deception. Then, on the night of November 10th, 5 days after Travis vanished, a phone rang at his brother-in-law's house in the middle of the night, jolting everyone awake. It was Travis, calling from a gas station several miles away, his voice weak, trembling, and barely coherent. When his family rushed to the location, they found him pale, thin, and disoriented, shaking slightly and staring blankly at the surroundings as if trying to piece together where he was. His clothes were dusty and slightly torn. Despite being gone for 5 full days, Travis insisted that only a few hours had passed. He described the night of his disappearance as a blur. Over the next several hours, as he ate, rested, and spoke with his family, fragments of his memory began to return, revealing glimpses of the strange and unsettling events he claimed to have experienced. According to Travis, after the beam of light struck him, he regained consciousness in a room unlike anything he had seen before. The space was dimly lit with a soft, unnatural glow, and the air felt heavy and slightly humid. The walls and floor were smooth and metallic, curving gently in a way that made the room feel enclosed yet oddly spacious. He realized that he was lying on a table-like surface, and around him were three small humanoid figures, each with disproportionately large bald head, wide golden eyes, and thin, pale limbs. They wore form-fitting suits that covered their bodies completely, and they moved silently, making no sound as they observed him. Terrified, Travis says he instinctively grabbed a metal object from the table and swung it at the beings, trying to defend himself. The entities quickly backed away, retreating to a corner of the room before leaving through an opening he had not noticed before. Shaken but determined, Travis got up and began walking through a series of narrow, curved hallways. The passageways twisted in unusual ways, and the lighting changed subtly as he moved, giving him a disorienting sense of direction. Eventually, he entered a larger chamber where a taller figure stood. This person appeared human in shape, but wore a helmet and a blue jumpsuit, with no visible insignias or markings. The figure did not speak, but made a deliberate gesture, signaling Travis to follow. He attempted to ask questions, but the figure remained silent, walking calmly ahead as Travis trailed behind. They entered another room where several similar human-like figures were present. One of them placed a transparent mask over Travis's face. Almost immediately, his surroundings went dark, and he lost all awareness of time or place. The next thing Travis remembered was waking up cold, weak, and disoriented, lying on the side of a deserted road. As he blinked, trying to make sense of where he was, he saw a glowing disk hovering quietly in the distance. Within seconds, it rose smoothly into the dark sky and vanished among the stars, leaving only a faint shimmer behind. Barely able to stand, Travis stumbled toward the nearest source of light he could see, a small gas station, where he found a phone booth and called for help. When doctors later examined him, they reported signs of extreme fatigue, dehydration, and mild malnutrition, as though he had gone several days without proper food or rest. There were also a few small puncture-like marks on his arm and the inside of his elbow, similar to those left by medical instruments. However, there was no sign of major injury or trauma. Despite these findings, skeptics immediately questioned his story. Some investigators argued that Travis might have suffered from a psychological breakdown. Over the years, the Travis Walton Incident became one of the most debated and closely studied cases in UFO history. It inspired countless documentaries, books, and the 1993 Hollywood movie Fire in the Sky, which dramatized Travis's experience. To this day, the truth behind Travis Walton's disappearance remains unknown. Whether it was a real encounter or something else entirely, what happened that night in that forest continues to remind us how little we truly understand about the world beyond our own.